Alright everybody, raise your hands if you feel like you've been doing this forever. Fortunately now we're getting to the fun part. I keep saying that, but really this is one of my funnest parts for me, and that's the materials. That's a huge part we've left out so far. We've done lighting, we've done rendering, but we've just been using this override material all this time, and there's nothing on our building. So you guys saw, I showed you the principles of modeling, and it was fairly simple, and you can take those principles and do all the stuff you need for this building. I showed you just a basic setup for your daylight and for your render settings, and you can go back and look at the supplementary materials for that if you need to. You should be set up on that. And remember, this is an intro course, so showing you the introduction of how to do it. But now, let's get into V-Ray materials. V-Ray materials are awesome. You're going to love them. They're simple. They look fantastic. And even a dummy can figure them out. So, and they also render really fast. I mean, they can do everything you need, even though they're simple and awesome. So let's go to V-Ray materials. You click on, sorry, this is what I did. Standard material, that's what we have here. You click on this. Let's change it to go to the V-Ray materials, which are dropped down right here. Let's change it to a V-Ray material. Like so. Now let me just talk about a few things we have in here. If you don't know anything about materials, well, I'll just assume that you don't, and we'll go from there. So the diffuse slot is basically giving our material the color. And you can set it to bright red, and you can see my material. If you could double click on this, it brings up swatches. Let's make it a little smaller. This is a swatch of our material so far. Super boring. It's just a red material. That's all we've done. However, you can also take this box here and click on it, and it will bring up our material map browser again. And here you can go into all the different kind of maps. There's millions of them. We'll want to live in this range right here, either standard maps or V-Ray maps. So maps are, let me just go a little more basic here. We have, this is our material. I call this a material, and it is made up of several different maps that tell that material different characteristics about itself. So for the diffuse, you can use a map to control the color. Now, probably the easiest to understand is just a standard bitmap. Okay, so this is what happens to come up here. Here's some teak wood. So if I click on this wood, which is a JPEG file, standard JPEG file, if I click on view image here, that's what the image looks like, and you can see my material here. It's being applied to the color of that material using this map, this bitmap here, which is just a JPEG image of teak wood. One thing you can see it's kind of blurry here. I like to change this to no blur. Makes it a little more crisp. Sometimes you want the blur there, but in this case it's okay to turn it down. Now this button here goes back to the parent. So we're inside the map right now. If we go back to the parent, we go back to the diffuse channel, and this little M right here means that there is a map in here, in our case a bitmap, controlling the color of this image. Now if you click on this bitmap, you'll see there's a lot of other things you can do. And a lot of these are just kind of procedural maps, and we might get into those a little bit later with some of our materials, but for this material we just want this bitmap. These are all different kind of maps that can control all the different channels of our material. Okay, back to parent. Now if you go down here, there's a drop down for all the maps in your image, because maps control everything about your material, mostly everything. And you can see my diffuse is here, and that is turned on 100% right there. If I turn it down to 50%, then a certain amount of this red color that I have here will show through. So we want the teak to be showing through 100%. If I uncheck this, then the red would show up entirely, just like that. That means I'm turning off the map. Okay, now let's go to reflection. Here we have reflection of the teak wood. And with this, you work in this value range here. Now, if you put 255, a value of 255, that is fully reflective, like a mirror. If you put 0, that means there's no reflection at all. So we want something in here. Hit OK. Now you can't really tell that there's any reflection on that wood. If you hit this button here, that'll put up a checkerboard background, and now that it has something to reflect, you can kind of tell that there's a sheen on that wood. Now, the reflection glossiness is an important part. If we put that to 0.5, you'll see what it does. Now it becomes a dull reflection. Okay, so it's 0.5 glossiness. At 1 glossiness, it's a mirror-like reflection, like that. At 0.5, it's a very spread out reflection. So for this, let's put it like 0.85. So it's pretty shiny wood, not like a mere lacquer finish. Another important thing is this check mark here, Fresnel reflections. This is more physically accurate. That means that it reflects less when you're looking straight on than it does as you're looking at more of an angle here on these edges of the sphere, you can see. So it reflects less here than it does there as you're looking at it. You can use that check for most materials because it's more physically accurate, but if you're doing something like a chrome or a mirror or something that really reflects a lot, if you uncheck this, you'll see how reflective that is now. That's not physically accurate, but sometimes you want it to be like that. So for this wood, we'll just leave that on. If I was doing a chrome material or something, or really reflective metal, then I would probably just turn that off. Subdivisions determines the quality. So 8 is default. If you put it to 16 or maybe even 32, you will get a lot higher quality in these reflections, a lot less noise again, but you will also, this can make your render times go up pretty high. A lot of things I can just leave at 8, and some of that will be cleaned up by my global settings when I render too, but that's always a balance you're looking for, where to do local settings and where to turn up your global settings and all those kind of things, but that's what that does. So another property is refraction. If obviously this wood is not going to be see-through, but if we wanted it to be, it works the same way. It's white, a pure white value is completely see-through, like that. Pure black value is no see-through. You can put somewhere in the middle. Now, the index of refraction is going to be an important thing. You can see that's getting really distorted, like when you're looking at something through water. So your index of refraction is right here. In this case, we'll just set it to 1.01, and that means there's no distortion. For some reason, if you set it to 1.0, it looks weird. So 1.01 looks about right. Now if you want light, if this was a glass window, so let's just turn off this. Let's pretend like we are making some sort of glass material, and this is going to be red glass. So I turned off that teak map. So now we have a red glass material. Let's see, where am I at? Okay, reflect. So glass will have a little bit of reflection on it, just like that. Fresnel reflection is good for glass. That's accurate. Refraction, let's put it somewhere here. Well, let's make it really see-through glass. Now, if you are just going to have a plain light refracting through just a plane that has no thickness, for like a window or something, you want it at 1.01. because otherwise you'll get major distortion as it goes through that plane. But if you actually model in the thickness of the glass, which we didn't in this case, then you could put it more accurately for the proper index of refraction for glass. which I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know 1.6, the default, will work for that. So only if it's modeled accurately will it work accurately with the correct index of refraction. But we can fake it by just putting a plane and putting the index of refraction 1.01, like that. If I put this to 1.6, you'll see what it looks like. Now again, that would work on a window that has some thickness to the glass. Okay. Now, an important setting here for glass would be affect shadows, and that means that the light is going to go through that window. And pretty much for any glass material, you'd want that on.